In the words of the legendary Lou Gellerman, hello, dog fans, and welcome to the Sound the Siren podcast, because everything matters, including even more recruiting conversations and talking about that Husky defense of the future and the recruits on the defensive side of the ball. As usual, I'm your host, Hooligan7. I'm joined tonight by Hood, Husky, and the Darker Knight. How are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Doing very well, man. Can't complain. It's been a long week, but been a long week. I'm excited to talk dogs.
Always excited to talk some dogs. So do it.
Come on.
We're 3 weeks away from the season. Of course, as we mentioned the last time, we're on, in terms of audio versions of our podcast, we're everywhere you might expect. We're on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We're also a proud member of the College Huddle. Check out thecollegehuddle.com and the College Huddle on Twitter. I've made a couple of appearances on some of our colleagues' podcasts in the network.
Great job, too.
Did a fun crossover with our colleagues from the other Pac-12 schools. That was lots of fun. Future crossovers to come. We're going to skip stupid tweets tonight. We will not skip beverages because that just can't ever be skipped on our podcast.
Can't do that.
Hood, what do you got tonight, buddy?
Oh man, I'm back to the basics, man. We on a nice little like workout weight loss journey right now. So eating like a rabbit, and I got high quality H2O.
Nice. Darker Knight, how about you, sir? On the H2O train as well?
What you sipping on, kid?
I think we might have.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know what was happening. You already know, man. It's too late at night, and it's a Friday Junior, as we like to call it at work. So I'm just sipping on some water, trying to get myself ready for this weekend.
Well, nobody told me because I've got a lucky envelope, HRC-003 West Coast IPA.
West Coast.
As usual with lucky envelope, it hits quite nicely. But I am going to transition after this one concludes to a Nomo bike.
Show the can, man. That can was like cool marketing. I like the way that they did that. That's fire.
Nice. But I will move on to a non-alcoholic hazy IPA from Nomo, the Sweet Summit Hazy IPA. So speaking of that, that weight loss journey, that one's got only 30 calories, so that's going to help mine as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right in to talking about the defensive commitments to this class. And we will start with the currently in terms of the rankings, the highest rated player in the class, or not our rankings, but the the recruiting service rankings, and that is Zadrius Rainey Sale, linebacker at 6'2", 220 at .9459, 4-star composite out of Bethel High School down in Spanaway, Washington. Hood or Darker Knight, who wants to go first with what they think of Zadrius? And we won't recap the rating scale for the breakdown of the rating scale. Please refer back to the offensive podcast, but we will go through our ratings for the class as it stands now, and we'll revisit again in the winter when they sign.
So I mean, like I was telling you guys, it's a huge, cultural win here, recruiting win here. Getting the best player in the state of Washington, kind of setting that tone with the new staff coming here, building that fence, not only in Washington, but obviously in PNW kind of seems too, but had to lock up Washington. Love his physical profile, and out of a place that we've recruited before, Bethel High School. So really, really excited for the potential of having a local guy, obviously highly rated, so a local potential star in the making there. So
yep.
And at a value position as well. So for frame, listed 6'2", 220-ish. I got that a 3. Any guy coming in, over 200 pounds as a linebacker, 210 from high school, has a pretty solid frame. You can put weight on people at the next level, especially with UW's facilities and process there. Physicality, I have that as a 2. What I'll say is he does play with a lot of finesse. I do feel like there is a lot of vibes like we were kind of talking pre-show where he does have the vibe where he does kind of feel like the best player on the field. So sometimes, the motor may not need to be there to be able to make a play or on a conversion down or something like that. And then flair, I did see a little bit of, I gave that a 2. I did see a little bit of kind of some some body language or whatnot. But it's more so that's that kind of nonchalant. I'm the best player on the field. I do think I do think for some interesting reason this year, and maybe his first year on campus, I do think we might see a different version of his play style. So I think that flair has the potential to definitely shoot up once he's kind of amongst peers. And then football instincts. Football instincts I have as a 3. Um, I do feel like he identifies the plays pretty quickly. Kind of makes his way through the mess pretty easy. He knows what he's looking at, and then in the offseason, he works with a pro program in FSP, so he's getting the looks, he's getting the understanding of the game as needed. So I have that as a 3. Feet and flexibility, like I said, at 6'2", 220 to move the way that he moves. I gave that a 3 as well. I felt like that's definitely at that kind of all conference level. So obviously it puts the physical element to the frame and the feet. That's a top tier prospect there. And that's a score of I got that 13 and a 2.6.
Yeah, I love watching him play as an athlete. I think the theme you can kind of see with the Belichick defense and what they're recruiting is more athletes and pieces they can use in the defense and not trying to pencil him in as a certain position coming in. So I took that into account when doing my rankings, watching him on film. He definitely does flash. Obviously, there's a lot of room for improvement, which I think he will show this upcoming season to really, round out his senior year. But so for what I have is for his frame at 6'2", 220, I believe that's a prototypical size for a linebacker. So I gave him a 5. That's about what you want your linebackers to come in at, especially with his athletic ability, where you can put really good weight on him. If he does have any bad weight, it's really easy to burn that off. Physicality, I put as a 3. Although he doesn't show it as much in film, I think he has the capability to be physical when needed. You can kind of, whether that's level of competition or what they ask him to do, I think he can improve there. Flair, I put as a 3. Obviously, the team rallies around him. He's the guy. Everyone knows he's the guy. And their defense, it seems like it plays hard, and he's kind of the key component to that. Football IQ, I gave it 3. He's not going to do anything flashy over the top as far as wowing you with plays, but what he does make up for that is with his athletic ability, which does flash, which leads me into feet and flexibility, where I gave him a 4. You don't see many guys at that size, especially in the league, that move the way he can move as fluid as he can and switch his hips. A lot of chase downs, things of that nature. So you could tell he knows how to use the speed, and he's confident within that. So it's a total score of 18 for me and a total grade of 3.6.
Yep. Yeah. I agree on a lot of those points, and I think bringing up the Belichick defense and not, I think, the way I look at ZRS is I think it would be very different if he was projecting like, oh, he's going to play middle linebacker, and, if you're expecting him to be Azim Victor, that's not going to be necessarily his game. But an outside linebacker in a multiple system like this, where you're going to need him to play sideline to sideline. So I had him at a frame, in the frame category. I had him as a 4. Again, basically a prototype. Maybe not quite. It could be kind of in that boundary of freakish eyes, already carrying in 220, depending on kind of a lot of what will ultimately kind of tell the tale there is how much weight he puts on early or like over the course of his career, and how much, whether they have to take, how different he looks year 1, year 2, year 3 throughout his career in terms of like how the weight shifts and grows and where it goes. So I had him as a frame 4, physicality a 3, and again, really emphasizing more of that sideline to sideline speed rather than like, so when we talk about physicality, it's not just, defensive tackles that are brick walls or linebackers that are knocking people into next Tuesday, but it's the overall, physical, fit for the position, and in a game that runs sideline to sideline passing offenses, that and particularly if you're reading or hearing practice reports like provided by our buddy Roman Tomashoff and Lars Hansen over on Locked On Huskies, how versatile this defense and multiple this defense, where they've got edge players dropping down into coverage, physicality is not going to be a question in that standpoint from ZRS. Flair again a 3. None of the real like oh my god plays in his highlight tape, but also nothing that was like I don't really know what I'm looking at either. It's kind of what you would expect. Football IQ and instincts again kind of a 3. There's definitely and one of the things that I'll be looking for out of the senior tape is maybe a little bit more attack mindedness and not maybe taking those waiting a step or two, just coming right downhill. And then feet flexibility had a 3, but that certainly could pivot and could improve over the course of the senior season for him at Bethel. So overall, I had him at a 16 and a 3.2, but that's a certainly a starter level player to start with. But I think and this will be borne out through our conversation tonight. A lot of what we're seeing on defense is projectable athletes. Like it's not just like that they're ready made. They're going to be starters day one. Yada yada, and don't need any work. But for positions and for the defense.
Yeah, now I definitely feel like ZRS is going to have a completely different senior year. So obviously a lot of these kids still have to play their senior year. So this scale for me specifically, and a player like ZRS and with his talent, with my scores, it was just off the junior film. I'm 100% confident that senior year is definitely going to be a more of a showcase opportunity for him. You're committed, so you got the confidence and the security of that. Staff's probably giving you goals to accomplish in regards to weight, in regards to play style, in regards to playing a certain position, getting film there, etc. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
And what I will say for some, like when he makes a decision, he goes.
Agreed. Yeah.
He gets to where he wants to be in a hurry, and that's certainly
those football instincts, So
we'll move on to again, kind of just going right down the list in terms of, and this was, the way I organized the sheet and how we're doing this is largely just based on the composite rankings. And the next one is Dylan Robinson, an athlete, listed at 6'3", 190 pounds, 0.9281 4-star composite from Bonita High School in Laverne, California. I'll go first on Dylan. Listed as an athlete, highlights on both sides of the ball in the high school tape. I think the assumption is that he's going to play defense, but my notes on him was, does he play D? Does he play O? The answer is A, as in all of the above. If you're looking for a UW version of Travis Hunter, he's it. Not necessarily the same player that Travis Hunter is in terms of like what he does, but he's got easily 4-star tape on both sides of the ball. If he was a receiver, like this is a 4-star receiver. As a defensive back, this is a 4-star defensive back. Wow. So for frame at 6'3", 190, if we were doing half points, he'd be a half point. He'd be I've got him as a 4. I could very easily see that as a 5. But depending on where he plays, I think at safety it's probably a 4. If he's a corner, it's a 5. Let's look at Ephesians Prysock and no further in terms of what that frame looks like at a corner position. Physicality is a 4. The speed, the hips, the playmaking ability. Flair definitely a 4. There we talk about the playmaking ability. Football IQ and instincts is a 3 for me. Feet and flexibility a 4. 19 overall with an average of 3.8. This guy is gonna be a dude wherever he plays, and probably every place that he plays is a Washington Husky. Dylan's a dude.
I completely agree. Just for clarification, he's playing defense, right?
That's the assumption.
And then it's safety, correct, or corner?
Weapon.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking like he's at 5th DB kind of. So that's where I was kind of doing my rankings. It wasn't at a corner. It wasn't at a traditional rangy safety. It wasn't as a box safety. It was just kind of as a hybrid defender. So really loved this film. The first thing that stood out was how smooth he was for his size, for sure. I think it might have been you, Dark Knight, that mentioned on offense. He kind of reminded you of the Jermaine Kearse a little bit. I think that might have been you that said that. He kind of reminded you of Jermaine Kearse a little bit on offense. And I kind of saw that in his small nuanced movements. But defensively at safety, I think he's just never out of control. We mentioned ZRS having the game be so easy. I felt like he was going at a controlled pace. I think Dylan's going at a fast pace. It just the speed is controlled. It's a little bit more controlled. He plays at a faster pace under more control. So um, I have with a frame of 6'3", 190. I have that as a safety or a hybrid player. That's a 4 frame for me. Physicality, I have that as a 3. I think obviously you're 190 going into your senior year. You're definitely going to get bigger. So I definitely feel like that physicality is going to go up there too. Flair, I'll also have as a 3. This is another player who, he does have some body language, because he is bigger than people. So he does have a lot of body language, but he kind of just has like a little bit of like post play swag, like in his own mind. Like he's like, I am the guy. I don't need to talk to you to validate that. So I really like that. So have Flair 3. Football instincts, I have a 4. I think that's what's going to take him to the next level in his collegiate career. Is not any element of his athletic profile, maybe outside of his size. And I guess I say ball skills. I think it's definitely going to be his physical, his football IQ and his instincts as well. Feet and flexibility. Once again, we need to understand that a 6'3", 190 is big for an NFL safety. So having the feet and flexibility that he does for that size, as a high schooler is very, very impressive. I gave that a 3 as well. Or I gave that a 3. That's totaling a score of 17 and a total average of 3.4. So high end quality starter for me.
Man, this is probably my favorite film of any of our recruits. Well, yes, he's up there. I'd say I like a lot of these guys, not all of them, but yeah, Dylan. I mean, if you turn on the tape, is his first play. I was telling Hood, I was like, yeah, go ahead and turn the tape off. It's okay. Yeah, going off.
That's Flair.
Yeah,
that's Flair.
That's Flair right there. It's like those highlight tapes where it's like, yep, one play, yep, I'm in.
His tape validates everything you see, and then you factor in his size, where he plays to his size as well, which is just a huge plus. I had written down, I was like, Kyle Hamilton. He's Kyle Hamilton on a defensive level, and I could see him easily as a Keenan Allen type if he wanted to play offense. You know what I mean? Like he could be a star doing both. And I haven't seen anyone with that type of potential since Shaq Thompson to come here. So with him, he's just a weapon. His frame is 6'3", 190. That's a 5 frame all day. Whether offense or defense, you can build on that. Whether he comes in as a freshman, he gets up to 200, 205 pounds on either side of the ball. That's an elite size for NFL corner or receiver. So he gets a 5 out of that. Physicality, game of 3. While he is big and he knows how to use his length, he does tackle a lot and use his arms. I want to see him show a little more brute force and really impose his will on a lot of games. I think we will see that coming this year. Flair I had as a 4 because he will let you know about it, whether offensively or defensively, when he does make a play. Love watching his swag and what he brings to the table. His football IQ and instincts, I have that as a 5 as well.
Okay.
Because he's elite he's elite with the ball in his hands, and on defense you can tell he's a really smart player, and he knows how to not only use his size, but he knows how to read the field, and he's a natural ball hawk. Feet and flexibility, like I said, that size, I gave him a 4. Well, he doesn't bend extremely, elite for that size. You don't really expect anyone to do that at that size. He definitely knows how to use his length in all the right spots as far as, whether he's impressed, whether he's off. When he's in off, you could tell he's a lurking kind of coverage DB. So he's a natural safety. Where he has the eyes to the quarterback, he kind of already trusts his speed, he trusts his athleticism, knows what the defense is doing, and then knows he has the instincts to make the play. So that gave him a total score of 21 and a rating of 4.2.
Ooh. Yeah. Best player in the class for you, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that is by our projection, like a projection above or at an all-conference level player.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely there, and I think. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I just be a little strict. You know what I'm saying? I'll be a little strict, but I definitely, if there was any fives to be thrown around, man, it was definitely for.
You're our vice principal in charge of discipline and, sending people to detention.
You need to work on your back pedal, son.
Coming next week, Hood call somebody a slacker.
No Gatorade or water for you, son.
But I also think, like, it bears mentioning, and this is not, in any slight to Elias, but like you talk about frame, and you talk about kind of projectable athletes, and Elias listed at 6'3", I believe he came in at 165 pounds. Dylan's coming in, listed at 190. You can see it. I think I have very high hopes for what Elias can be as a corner. But Dylan, like, there is another level just in terms of what is on the tape between those two players, from one player from last year, one player from this year. We can go ahead and move along to another in-state recruit, and that is also listed as an athlete, definitely, and I think is going to end up at linebacker, and that is Jonathan Epperson, a 6', 210-pound linebacker / safety, 0.89754 star from Auburn, Washington. Darker Knight, you want to go first on Mr. Epperson?
Man, a classic thumper. I was telling Hood, I was like, this is Levante David reincarnated. And he's just find the ball, you'll see him. You turn the tape. The dude's twitchy.
My first note: see ball, hit ball.
You talk about feet when feet marry your eyes. When feet marry your eyes, he's the prototype
for real.
in this class.
Yep.
When it comes to just his overall ability, I'm super excited about him, and glad we were able to, add him to this class. He's another one of those guys where you can see in this Belichick scheme where you got 6 guys standing up at the line of scrimmage, all twitchy, athletic, don't know where they're coming from. He could drop in coverage. You can line him up on the running back. You see him in coverage, like his man-to-man skills are there. So there's a lot you can do with him, which is super exciting. As far as his frame, listed at 6', 210, I gave him a 3. Not exactly the prototypical frame you'd want out of a linebacker, but if you think about him more as a weapon and kind of undersized, he's kind of similar to what Bobby Wagner was coming into college at Utah State. So I was kind of doing my research there. I was like, and he kind of has those instincts when I watch him on tape. That's who is comp for me. Physicality is a 4. If you see him, he's a thumper. He's going to knock your head off and let you know about it. So I have his flair as a 4 as well. His football IQ and instincts I have as a 3. I think he uses a lot more his athletic ability rather than having to necessarily rely on natural football IQ and instincts. But I also think that's level of competition as well. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have elite football IQ and instincts. I just don't think he's asked to necessarily use them all the time. So I had that as a 3. Feet and flexibility I had as a 4. Like I said, you can't teach his want to, and the way he can kind of bend and twitch for linebackers, what you'd want in the middle of your defense. Again, a total score of 18 and an overall rating of 3.6.
Yeah. So this is so when we talk about, like, favorite players, man, like, this guy is gonna be is definitely one of those guys. I think the majority of the offensive guys probably are like my overall favorite players. But when it comes to defense, man, this was exciting, and also to watch him and see like he's from Washington. When we're a brand of football that doesn't necessarily have a reputation for physicality, to see the way that he plays football is refreshing, especially up here.
Now, Hood, wait. Let's not be bringing up and buying into the Booger McFarland narrative. Come on now.
Basketball on grass.
Basketball on grass, apparently. You know what I'm saying? It's apparently not the reputation.
That turn out against Texas.
We have those types of athletes out here for sure, and I'm glad Epperson gets to display that on the highest level for sure. So listed at 6', 210, Frame, I gave that a 3. Obviously, there's a little bit of height to be desired, but in like a multiple system, I'm not too concerned about that. I'm gonna assume you're gonna be put in the best positions. We're doing comps and stuff like that, and the see ball, hit ball kind of thing. I mean, an incumbent local guy that's on the team right now, Carson Bruner, kind of that see ball, get ball. I do think. I do think Carson's definitely more of a glider when he runs, so I think he's a little bit more long speed fast. But Epperson is definitely short burst fast. 10 yards in any direction, you're not going to find a better prospect. So frame I gave 3. Physicality I gave 4. I was toggling back and forth between 4 and 5 with this one, just because this is just a refreshing version of football, man. This is when you talk about the staff talking about be a pro. When it comes to the physical element of the game, you're not going to have to coach the pro instincts there at all. Not only do you thump on contact, you wrap up. One thing I was telling Hooligan last week was how when he hits you, you going sideways or back. There's other linebacker prospects that are ranked ahead of him where, people are running them over or they're ankle biters or they're not physical on contact. So, physicality, I give a 4. Flair, he definitely lets you know that he smacks you, and he's a dog as a running back. It's funny. I was kind of laughing because I wouldn't say, with all due respect, I wouldn't say he has like the best running back vision. So when he finds out that he ain't got nowhere to go, he's running into your face mask. It's the funniest. He's so love the flair in that, man. Just a physical player. Football instincts. One thing I'm glad you said was the feet match. The eyes match the feet. The eyes marry the feet. I think off rip that gives you a 3. I do see what you see as well with kind of just the natural athleticism and maybe the competition kind of allowing him to see ball, hit ball, and make it look a little better for sure. And then feet and flexibility. It's a tough one. I do feel like we kind of have these like Barron on both sides is really good. I think his feet on defense are 4. Offense, it's weird. It becomes a little bit choppy. So it's kind of interesting how that works. I'm curious how it's going to translate to the next level, but I'll give it a 4 because of the defensive film.
Yep.
That's a total score of 18 with an average of 3.6. So.
Yep. And I got to the same score again. Like I said, see ball, hit ball. I think I don't remember whether it was in the GC or it was with our broader GC or it was in our group chat. Just the Sound and Siren group chat that somebody made the Keyshawn B area comp.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very apt. Very much a similar size. Really good. Again, that good side. Really good speed. Sideline to sideline speed for a linebacker. Agility and really those tackling fundamentals, like, Hood, to your point, where he's either going, tackling, they're either going backwards or they're going to the side, but they're also not getting out of his grasp at all. So, really excited about him. So for frame, I gave him a 3. A little undersized, but for, again, this defense, the scheme, what we're going to ask him to do, not quite, is he freakish size? No. Is he all conference, kind of your usual all conference level linebacker size? No, but he's also not drastically undersized either. Physicality was a 3. Again, that sideline to sideline speed, playmaking ability. So the flair certainly a 4. Flair, for me, like it's not just telling somebody about it, but it's for me when I look at the a linebacker tape that pops. It's like that's exactly what I'm looking for. Is he come like. Ball carrier going one way, linebacker coming the other. Which direction does that ball carrier end up? Jonathan Epperson gets a 4 in that regard. Football IQ and instincts, again, very similar. Attacks the ball. So that was a 4 for me. And then the feet and flexibility was a 4. So that got me to an 18 and a 3.6 as well for Jonathan Epperson. One of them, I definitely think, probably a top 5 or top 6 guy for me in the class in terms of, kind of my favorite film. And, local kid. So excited to see what he can do as a Husky. But we'll move right along and Denim. Batman. it's time to talk about Rylan Dillard Allen. That was the easiest musical reference. I could have done the Hans Zimmer. I could have done the Danny Elfman. We'll workshop that. I'll try and figure out a way to musically incorporate Bow Down to Washington and Batman themes for future podcasts. But Rylan Dillard Allen, a safety at 5'11", 165 pounds, from Mountain Point in Arizona, a .8902 composite. So kind of depending on the survey, I think he's a 24/7 3-star, but a composite 4. Who wants to start talking about the Batman first?
So, another one of my faves here. So I apologize, everybody. My favorite dog. I love me some DBs. I love me some DBs, and the fact that there's it's a diverse class of DBs is the real cool part, especially the safety group. You got the guy at 5'11", 165, and then 6'3", 190. So that's and they're both brought in to kind of be a versatile piece. So it's kind of cool to see that they're utilizing different body types in that versatile role. But at 5'11", 165, let's keep it a bean. You know what I mean? That's a pretty small frame. I was actually going back and forth with a 1 or a 2, but at 5'11", 165, if he adds, if he gets to 175, 180, by the time he's playing, he's going to make a big impact on the game. So, and I'll get to kind of some of that as well later. So I'll give the frame a 2. Physicality, I didn't want to penalize him for his size. I wanted to just analyze his game. And I would say if he was 5'11", 5'11", 185, people would be talking about his physicality a little different, just because of sheer size. He doesn't necessarily, thump or pop, but he definitely, wraps up. Dudes usually don't get out of his grasp. So I gave physicality actually a 4, just with the reckless abandon in which he plays with. So you put a little weight behind you, you're not going to have to worry about physicality. I think that's a play style just as well as its physical ability. Flair, kind of marrying physicality. After he kind of displays, I wouldn't say it's obviously little man syndrome or anything like that, but after he kind of displays, the art of physicality, he definitely lets you know that this, that, and the other happened. And he's mainly kind of yelling at his teammates, or at himself. So it's not necessarily, the opponent that gets him up.
It's more hype than taunting.
He's more hype than taunting. Yeah, he's just a hair on fire type player, and that's why transition into football instinct can give a 4 as well. That motor you can't teach that, and I think watching him kind of play with that reckless abandon, I think a lot of fans are going to start to compare him to another smaller safety that we had out here. I think people are definitely gonna do that. So I gave football IQ and instincts a 4. Now moving into feet and flexibility, it's funny. There's a few, early in his tape. I think it's like maybe the first 3 or 4 plays. I didn't even care about him making a play on the ball or who he was defending or anything like that. I literally just watched the back pedal. I was like, oh, thank God somebody's backpedaling. Oh, is that a back pedal? That's a back pedal. I saw him break out of back pedal. Oh, is that a back pedal? Like, because a lot of people aren't even teaching it anymore.
And this is why we have a feet and flexibility categories. You're the feet guy.
Man, bro, I really love his feet, man. So I gave that a 4. Now I really wish that he was a little bigger, because this is a 5-star type of a mentality approach to the game, man. So I gave that a total of 15 and a score of 3 on average. Yeah. You get 5'11", 170, 180, and it's you get 6 foot 180, and you're a
similar to Hood. This is one of my favorite prospects in the class. His size is actually very similar to, some safety that's playing for the Cardinals right now. When he came into the University of Washington, though I believe he's more explosive. He's one of my more highly rated guys in other categories, which we'll get to. Only thing I did knock on him was his size. I had that as a 2. I think is really good high school size, but when you're talking about college and projection, he definitely has a lot of room for improvement there. I could easily see him adding weight to that frame to get him to that 180, 185 as a freshman. And I believe he, at a few of these prospects, he in himself, because of the way he plays, has a chance to play as a true freshman if he is able to put that weight on because of the way his game translates. Physicality has a 4. He actually reminded me a lot of Buddha in this category because of the way his reckless abandonment to come down and make those tackles, not afraid to fill a gap or, meet somebody in the alley and throw his body out there. I actually love that in a player. He relishes
all
it, similar to
165 pounds of it.
Yeah, similar to a Devin Witherspoon, where he gets a lot out of that, and it pumps him up and pumps his teammates up. So Flair has a 4 as well. You see him celebrating a lot, whether he has a ball in his hand or he's chasing somebody down. He's going to let you know that he hawks you down or he hits you, and I love that. Football IQ and instincts, this kid is everywhere. I don't recall seeing a lot of bad angles on tape. I seen him making up a lot, a space for teammates that maybe had taken up, a wrong angle. So he's kind of the glue guy in the
last
back
football
end.
game we played.
And I just called him, in my notes, I nicknamed him the eraser because he's erasing a lot of mistakes on defense. And that's somebody you want as a safety. He's the last line. And feet and flexibility, that has a 5. Ooh. He's the guy that when I think of eyes marrying the feet, he's the best prospect that we have so far in this class. You could tell he doesn't hesitate. He trusts his speed. He trusts his instincts. And not only that, usually when he hits you, you're not moving out of that tackle, whether that's because of the force of his speed hitting you or he's just a sure tackler and knows how to throw his body in there, although it's all of 165 pounds.
Trust his foot technique.
Yeah.
He trusts his technique. You also
see him running folks down, and when you see him hit a top speed of 21.9 miles per hour in high school, it's pretty impressive as well. Got to give him a little notch for that with feet as well. I had him at a total score of 19 and a 3.8 overall.
Yep. And that was certainly something that I was going to call out. So for me, I had frame as a 2. It is definitely a little undersized. Physicality, and again, it's not just I think it's a combination of in his instant, it's even though he's not the biggest guy in the world, he is willing to throw all 165 pounds of it at you. And then, but also for a safety or for a nickel corner or kind of that hybrid safety nickel corner type of the speed is there. Unquestionably, to the point about hitting 21.9. I had Flair as a 3. I think maybe, to me, the one thing I would have liked to have seen maybe that would have bumped it to a 4 and something that I'll look for in the senior tape is, maybe just a little more high point and just, either, not just the pass breakups, but the interceptions. Football IQ and instincts was a 4. Again, that could be bumped up because he's got it. Feet and flexibility, again, was a 4. Overall for me, a 17 and a 3.2. But certainly an athlete that that's a 3.4. Certainly somebody that I'm very excited about. And again, Hood, to your point, he come in, 185, 190, that goes up in a hurry because that's going to play, particularly in the college game and in a Steve Belichick defense, where it's so interesting. I think the combination in the same class of Dylan Robinson and Ryland Taylor-Allen, you've got somebody that's essentially in Dylan, an outside corner safety hybrid weapon, and in RDA and Batman, you've got the nickel free safety weapon of okay, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, you're going to follow him around. I was listening a little bit to Locked On Huskies, and they were talking about the steps that Giles has taken, and if you look at what our defense is going to see every day in practice in how this offense uses slot receivers like Jacob Cowling, like Dorian Singer, they will use Giles Jackson. They're basically home cooking the counter to that piece in a guy like Ryland Taylor-Allen.
Nicely said, yep.
But we can move along. So we'll to Darian Clemens, a 6 foot, 170 pound athlete. Another Washington kid out of Spanaway Lake. He's a .8, 6'5", composite, 3-star. I'll go first on Darian. Speed, quick hips, quick hip flip, and certainly again, kind of in the same vein as RDA. Not afraid of throwing what is not a stout frame or a wide body or a super muscular super thick athlete, but not throwing all of himself into making a tackle and being physical. So for me, real quick, I'll run through it. For Darian, I gave him a 3 in terms of frame, 6 foot, 170 pounds. That's maybe not a quite prototype, but certainly not undersized as a corner. Physicality was a 4, again, with the speed and with that willingness to throw himself into the fray. Flair was a 3, football IQ and instincts a 3, feet and flexibility a 3, for me overall to get to a 16 and a 3.2.
So I'll say for me, one thing that stood out was, we got, I'm gonna harp on it like crazy, but it's just, when you really, really enjoy your craft, it really shows. And you can kind of see the FSP, training kind of bleeding through, his acumen. There is a comfortability with playing corner that he has that is ready for the next level now. Everything is at his pace. His athleticism is tailored to the position, so you can tell that he works at that specific position often. You can even see it in some of his running back movements. He's returning an interception. You know what I mean? Like he's running like a DB after he has a turnover. So for size, it's funny. He's an inch taller and 5 pounds heavier than RDA, but I feel like his size at his position is a little bit more fitting of the position. So, albeit while he's only an inch taller and 5 pounds heavier, I gave the frame a 3 instead of a 2. And then we get into physicality. Once, just like you said, Hooligan, he definitely sticks his nose in there. He sheds blocks. He kind of doesn't, doesn't get stuck on blocks as well. So I think he plays the game with a version of physicality that's going to allow him to succeed as a corner at this level. Respectfully, we just watched a season of Jabbar Muhammad and run support, so I think we'll definitely be fine. With Clemens' ability. Physicality I gave it 2. Flair I gave a 3. I'll say there's a way you can speak with your game, and I gave his game flair a 3. The confidence in which you play with on the field. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th play on his film on defense. He avoids the block. It seems like he knows it's going to be a screen. He avoids the blocker. And in his body language, he kind of nonchalantly is like, "Man, I got this screen, bro." It's kind of like there's a little bit of an arrogance in his body language. Like, I know I'm in cover 3, but I'm gonna press, and I'm bailing. So he just kind of plays with his technique a little bit, and it seems like his coaches allow him to do that. So, if you're confident in your game, I think you deserve to have that. You don't have to talk trash if your game speaks for it. So I gave that flair 3. Football instincts I gave a 3. There's no way in hell you move the way you move as a corner, the way that he moves already. If you don't, put in work and have the acumen, to play corner. So, like I said, RDA, I saw a backpedal. Well, I saw a backpedal, a side shuffle. I saw all types of stuff from him. So, football instincts 3, feet and flexibility a 4. So I have his total at 15 as well. And that's a 3 overall average rating.
Nice. Yeah, I'll quickly run through it. Like you said, I think he knows how to play to his athletic abilities, confident, which you want to see in a corner. He has moxie.
Yeah.
His total frame I had, I know that inch height difference in 5 pounds, isn't a lot, but I gave him a 2 as well. I don't feel it was that big of a gap between him and gave him a 2. Physicality and flair, both 3s. He plays with a lot of heart, has a lot of heart. And you can tell he's passionate about the position.
Mm-hmm.
Football IQ gave a 3. Whether that's competition, or what they ask him to do. I believe his athletic ability kind of takes him over the top, similar to those that we've named earlier. But in this system, I believe he can be used all over the field. He has that type of flexibility. Feet and flexibility. Speaking of, I gave a 3 as well. While not, overly elite twitchy, I think he definitely has the speed and athleticism to make plays at this level. So I gave him an overall score of 14 and an average rating of 2.8.
Another Mr. Robinson in this class. In this case, that would be Donovan Robinson. Similar height, but a little more weight on this frame. 6'3", 210 pound, 0.87 composite, 3-star linebacker out of Wilmette, Illinois. I'm going to go first on this one, if you gentlemen don't mind. Word of my notes: explosivity. Particularly at about 2 minutes into the junior highlights, something that really stood out to me is that he bit on a flea flicker and recovered to break it up. Sound tackler, good hand punch, fighting through blocks. Real quickly, in terms of the scale, at 6'3", 210 pounds, that's a frame 4 for me at linebacker. If you're 6'3", that's a 4, and carrying the weight well. Physicality was a 4. Not afraid of contact. Will bring it. Flair again, like on plays like that where maybe poor instincts initially, but the wherewithal and knowledge and the athleticism to get back on that flea flicker, to take 2 or 3 steps to the toward the line of scrimmage and then recover 20 or 25 yards downfield. That shows me something. Football IQ and instincts a 3, and feet and flexibility a 3. So overall an 18 and a 3.6. I like this Mr. Robinson a lot.
Yeah, this is. I mean, he's right there with Dylan as far as my favorite prospect on that side of the ball. I mean, next to his name, I just have dog in capital letters. The dude is relentless. I can definitely see him, whether he's going to be a big nickel, big safety, your green dot linebacker, rushing the passer. I can see this dude doing a lot of different things in this defense, and I can tell they're really excited about it. I know he's really close with Vinny Sinceri, and the thought was to, bring him in as a safety, and if he grows out of it, you're a linebacker. He's open to either, which is dope. But the kid can play. His frame at 6'3", 210, definitely has a 4. I mean, that's pretty darn close to an elite frame for a linebacker, especially coming in as a freshman. You can easily see him, coming in at 225 when he steps on campus. And when he is a college weight program, physicality I have is a 4 as well. He will definitely thump you. Is not afraid to take on blocks, and you can tell when he does arrive, he arrives with a bad taste in his mouth. Flair has a 4 as well. We'll get up and let you know about the play he just made, and his teammates rally around him as well. You can tell that he is the guy on that defense, which I love. You can tell he's an alpha, and I think that's what I'm expecting to be when he arrives on campus. Football instincts and IQ I have as a 4. He just plays the position the way it's supposed to be played, whether he's, 10 yards off the ball, he's up in the line of scrimmage. Like, you just have a feeling he's going to make a play when you watch film. He just knows how to, whether he's shedding blocks, whether he's running alleys, natural with, not even just the ball in his hand, but just in coverage. The guy just can play. So I had that as a 4, and feet and flexibility has a 4 as well for a linebacker in his size. The way he moves, to have that positional versatility where you could play safety or linebacker or defensive end, depending on where we need you. He's just an elite prospect. He'd be a bust if he's not an all-conference player to me. So I had him at total
I agree with that.
And average rating of 4.
I agree with that.
Modes Malone, 4.
And I thought I was high on this Mr. Robinson, but love it.
It sure took me a little bit. I don't know why, because I typically feel like I know what I'm looking at, and it, I watched it the first time. I watched it first. It came away like, oh, okay, and then both of you guys, and some others were like, "Hey man, like watch it again. I don't know what you were looking for." And yeah, I don't know what I was looking for. Because second, third, fourth, fifth time around, I'm like, wait, what was I missing? Like, did I cut it off early or something? Because this is a different level. They say what down south it just matters more. This is a kid where you can see this process just matters more. This is a I'm a football player kind of kid. I was in Pee Wee and I played everything. I played quarterback, receiver, running back, offensive line, defensive line. So it just seems like that's a kid that definitely was a football player, and he's blessed to have the size that he has with those instincts. So, frame, I'm gonna give a 3. You gave a 4, Darker Knight, and I do agree with that. I think or I could agree with that. I do think that that frame as a junior for sure is elite, but I think we do see some dudes come in, what I'm saying, like already, 220, 225. He has a team or a classmate that has 10 pounds on him listed. So if I gave him a 3, I couldn't. If I gave ZRS a 3, I couldn't give Donovan a 4. So 3 for frame. Physicality, they gave a 3 as well. I wouldn't say physicality is the name of his game. Um, I would just say it's tough to describe. I don't think he's physical at all. But yeah, that's a tough one. I'll probably have to circle back on that. But I don't necessarily think he's overly physical. He definitely just gets the job done for sure, in almost a real flashy way. And I guess that's transitioning into flair. He makes a lot of pro style tackles already, from pro angles, chase down type things. You don't necessarily need physicality when sometimes you're like making a shoestring tackle to save a 70-yarder. That's equally as valuable. You don't need to pop some, later wood on somebody. So, flair 4. Football instincts, definitely a 4. They got that man playing edge, linebacker, middle linebacker, safety. They got him playing kick returner, punt returner. So, like I said, he has a bunch of vibes like he just, in Pee Wee played everything. And then feet and flexibility to have that size for you to be recruited at multiple positions, on defense, I think is a compliment in itself. And definitely does. And at his size, 6'3", 210, and sometimes that's a different type of build. Like if you look at Dylan Robinson, his is more of a wiry kind of skill player build. It does seem like Donovan's 6'3", 210 build is more stocky and has a lot more room to grow. So I'm not like comparing the athletes when I'm kind of talking about their feet and flexibility with that frame. I think for the position and for his kind of more bigger, stocky build, Donovan has 4 feet and flexibility. So I gave that a score of 18 and a 3.6 rating.
Yeah, and also like I will also say, like, in terms of physicality, it's not just the ability to kind of just lay the wood. It's ultimately kind of we're looking at it as a essentially position based athletic traits. Of course, feet and flexibility is part of that, but that's kind of a separate kettle of fish, and there could be some differences and nuance in that. That's something that I think we want to break out a little bit further. But we can go ahead and move on to the next recruit in the class, and that is Ramones Adams, a cornerback at 6'1", 160 pounds from Bastrop, Texas. A 3-star composite, 0.8689. Who'd like to go first on Ramones?
I got you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Or no, I got it. Don't even worry about it. So actually looking at it now, it's like, although he's 6'1", he's only 160 pounds. I think with his style of play, I had him was quicker than fast. But definitely a guy who's not afraid to mix it up. I definitely see what they saw in him, even back when they were in Arizona. I can see where they're projecting him. Another one of those versatile pieces on defense where he's listed as a corner, but you can see him growing into a safety. You can see him in the nickel. It's just that positionless kind of versatility on defense, which is kind of the name of their game, and you can kind of see that in his game as well. He's a natural ball hawk. I don't know if you guys watched a lot of film on him, but you can tell he he plays to his size in a way where he seems longer than what he actually is, as far as the way he attacks and the way he matches up, especially on the outside. So his frame, I gave him a 3. I do like his height, but his weight leaves a lot to be desired. He definitely could put on easy 20, 25, 30 pounds, by the time he's all said and done at college. Physicality, I gave a 3. Well, I do think he shows the ability to come up and make, the necessary tackle. I don't see him as overly physical. And that 160 pounds doesn't hurt or doesn't help him in that sense. But he isn't afraid to make a tackle. Flair, I gave a 4. He definitely is I wouldn't call him demonstrative, but he definitely is somebody that you can tell he definitely has a lot of flair and excitement about him. Whether he's making the play or a teammate makes a play, just kind of watching some games from him, you can tell he's the kind of guy that they all rally around, which I love. And it kind of seems like that's the theme of the defensive class. Football IQ and instincts I gave before as well. I think that's his calling card, and that's what they see a lot in him is what he doesn't have athletically, he makes up with his IQ and instincts on film when you watch him. He's rarely out of position, which you rarely see these days in high school with kids kind of going all over the place. But he is actually the green dot of their defense. And he's a lot of the guy that makes a lot of the switches and the coverages, which I really love. Feet and flexibility, I gave it 3. I didn't see anything overly, exciting to get, pumped about, but he definitely has the athleticism to play at the next level. And I think he could be a contributor for sure. I gave him an overall score of 17 and a 3.4 rate.
I'll say for me, once again, I love me some corners. And I think regardless of your 160-pound, lifted weight, you being a 6'1" corner is already an advantage. So there's a ton of length to go along with that. And on top of being 6'1", you kind of feel, I was going to say, he has a lot of zone corner vibes. Just kind of like, you were talking about how he plays the ball and stuff like that. So guys who are usually playmakers, they rely on their size and length. They rely on kind of seeing and kind of having their head back and looking at the quarterback. That just feels like it's him. Didn't see too much high level man-to-man ceiling, but I did see the potential of a high level zone ceiling. So 160, you can pop that to 180. You know what I'm saying? Even 175 by the end of the year, I would assume. So I gave frame 3. Love me a tall, lengthy corner. Physicality, now to that criteria of physicality, raw athleticism at corner is, that's the one place to flex it. We have track meets with receivers, sometimes running backs, definitely corners. You know what I mean? And that it's not really a huge advantage when you're not a burner at that position when you're going to be facing a lot of burners. I'm maybe not in your conference, but most likely coming soon. You probably will. So I gave physicality a 2. Flair, I do feel like to your point, he definitely makes it a point to kind of let you know he made a play or once again in his like running style. I really think that you can have like swag in the way you run and the way you move and kind of stuff like that. And I also feel like to ZRS, to the points about ZRS, I feel like and some others, I feel like the game kind of comes a little easy. So I didn't feel like it didn't feel a lot like 100%. Like it felt like there was another gear to be hit if somebody asked it to be out of him. And I think senior year, you're going to see a little bit of transition in play. So football instincts, once again, one of the most instinctive players on the field is a zone corner. So I gave that a 3. Feet and flexibility. He did a lot of kind of playing off and bail in and those types of things. So I didn't really get to see a lot of that. I saw a lot of shuffling. Saw a lot of. I did see him line up at safety sometimes and kind of getting his rangy bag a little bit like that. So I'm curious where they kind of want him, but at corner specifically, I saw zone feet, zone eyes, zone everything. So I gave that a 3. So with a total score of 14 and a 2.8.
Yeah. And for me, I was mostly basically 3s across the board with the exception of football IQ and instincts. definitely saw that. And while I agree, Darker Knight, to your point about that he's probably quicker than fast, that's not to say that he's also not fast.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's probably
He
a little
pulls away
quicker.
from
Like,
people too.
Yeah.
like he can. So, like, I think there was some flair in there, like, almost before with some of his, like, on the offensive highlights, his ability to run away from people. So I don't, like, as a, Hood, to your point, is his own corner. I think he's a guy that, even if he gets beat a little over the top, he might be able to run a couple of people. Or, he and RDA are fast enough to help run some people down from behind if somebody gets them over the top. Or, with maybe the exception of one of his offensive teammates, who I don't think anybody is going to be chasing down from behind. For more information on that, listen to our previous podcast.
Facts.
So again, I had basically threes across the board with the exception of football IQ and instincts. So an overall 16 and a 3.2 for me.
Yes,
for Ramon's Adams.
Yeah,
I do want to call it out real quick.
No, I was just going to say, when I was saying quicker than fast, it's because I'm projecting him more as a nickel or a safety because of the way he plays and how high he plays.
Yep, that's a good point.
He trusts his speed and instincts, and I think that's where he's going to be best utilized in space because that's naturally where he thrives and where he stands out on film. So I think you put him in a position where he's going to shine, and I think he doesn't really necessarily have to use his speed unless it's needed. And you can tell, like, out film, he's just a really instinctive player. So that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. But I will say one of the things that I'd also like to just shout out the staff again on, for the work that they put into this class is, and we're going to get to, we're about to talk about a prospect from a traditional pipeline state. The next two of the next three are, are West Coast states. One of them is definitely a non-traditional pipeline state. We talked about, in talking about Donovan Robinson, we're talking about a Husky coming in from Illinois. Previous staff, you have Alinius Davis coming from Minnesota. We're expanding the footprint, and not to give them credit, but, like, I think one of the things that, or not to give credit in a couple of directions, but to give credit in a couple of directions. Oregon, at kind of the nascency of the Chip Kelly era, and when they really rose to national prominence, they were doing a lot of not necessarily the highest of the highly ranked kids from all over the country, but they were getting kids that were scheme fits from all over the country and starting to build those inroads. The previous staff at Washington was starting to do that a little bit, and that's only been continued by this staff. And the potential of that is very, very exciting, because you look at a program like Oregon, and in terms of how they're recruiting currently, as we make a transition into a nationwide conference, it's going to follow that we're going to have more inroads and more chances to play right in front of these kids. And it's going to be all the better for our program that we've basically, that we're not playing catch up, but those, some of the groundwork has already been done by the previous staff, and then certainly even continued and accelerated by the current staff. But without completely taking the podcast off the rails and ending up with another 2-hour podcast like we did a couple weeks ago, we'll move on to Devin Hyde, a 6'5", 225-pound edge from notes. He's from Menlo Atherton in Menlo Park, California. A .8578 composite 3-star. If this kid's a 3-star,
yeah, I don't know what a 3-star is.
I'm like, good first step, fundamental tackler, hand punch, maybe not well, starter, P5 starter level right now, or P5 all conference player right now. No concerns that that's going to get where it needs to be. Sheds really well. He had a short yardage hand punch win at 4 o'clock or at 4 o'clock at 4 minutes of the junior highlights. There is absolutely no questioning the want to from Mr. Hyde. Frame for me, I think I'm actually going to adjust this on the fly. I had it as a 3, but it's 6'5". If he comes in and that's an accurate height, that's a 4 and verging maybe on a 5. Although maybe a little undersized at 225. So I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what his final, height and weight are as a senior. Frame for me is a 4. Physicality is a 3. Flair was a 4. Just chasing plays down. Football IQ and instincts, talking about that motor, that's a 4. Feet and flexibility, a 3, and overall for me, that gives Mr. Hyde an 18 and a 3.6. Like, this is a kid that, this is by ranking or by the experts' rankings, the 4th lowest current defensive recruit in the class, and we're talking about
That's wild, bro.
How is he not a 4-star?
Yeah, that's wild, bro. I mean, he has the size to match. He's at a program that puts people out, so you can't blame physical traits. They like to talk about, what type of body types. You can't blame body type. You can't blame program. You can't blame production. This is just a flat out miss, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of us try to call those types of things out, to no avail. But so obviously, I would think he's probably going to be a lot of people in his classes, in his fan base's favorite, just with like the reckless abandon in which he plays with, um, and it's a prime position for getting us back to where we want to get to. The big is really big on interior defensive linemen and having those first round, second round, day 1, day 2 type of edge players. So. Really excited to see how he develops. I'll say frame, I got 4 at 6'5", 225. You are a very big kid. And you hold it well. And he also has the frame to add weight to that 225 pound frame. Physicality. Now, to his physical traits, I did feel like he is a very, very fluid athlete. I think there's a difference between being like, naturally athletic and like football athletic. And I definitely feel like he's football athletic. He's like football twitchy. And I'll get to, once we talk about the other defensive end, I'll kind of marry a point there too. Flair, I think the flair comes here with his hair. and obviously in the way he plays.
With it on fire.
With it on fire. Like, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say Braylon Trice is a flair player, but his motor made him play with flair. He made a play and he was like hyped for himself. It wasn't like, so I gave his flair a 3. Football instincts, I gave a 4. And a lot of that has to do with his motor. I gave his instincts more so than a 4 than maybe his football IQ. I think there's a lot about his IQ that will have to develop. I think edge players, especially at this level, kind of just play with their hair on fire, just beat the guy in front of them and get to the quarterback. So I do feel like the IQ has a little bit of improvement. Before there, feet and flexibility I have as a 4 as well. At 6'5", 225, you've been able to bend and make plays and chase down plays and things like that is impressive. So I gave that a score of 18 and a 3.6.
Nice. Yeah, I'm basically right there with you. When I look at him and look at the film, the first word I thought was effort. This kid has a motor that don't stop. Kind of a lot like, Max Crosby. Not comparing him to Max Crosby, but just that relentless, I got to make this play. If you're still running with the ball, Devin Hyde's running after you. That's all you need to know. This kid
He's like Mike Myers.
Might want to hide from Mr. Hyde.
He's like Mike Myers. Hey, hide from Hyde. Hey, for sure.
He might be on your hide.
He might be on your hide.
And 6'5", 225.
That's crazy work.
That's prototypical. That is crazy. I gave him a 4 frame. That's a prototypical defensive end type size. Coming on campus, I easily see him 20 pounds heavier. And with the potential to potentially rotate in, as a true freshman, while looking at our depth chart now. That's another topic for another day. Physicality, I gave it 3. While he does have a high motor, I don't see a lot of necessary knockback, but he does have excellent uses with his hands and knows how to punch, shed. So he's definitely, above average there. And I think that's only going to grow as his frame grows. Flair, like I said, 3 as well. I think the hair helps a lot as well when he's running, and he kind of looks like that, like a superhero kind of as he's running and making. And that kind of leads into the football IQ and instincts. I give a 4. Effort is huge with me, especially on the defensive end. And having somebody you can rally around like that is really huge, especially somebody up front who's giving that type of effort on every down. So I gave him a 4, and then feet and flexibility, I gave a 3. I don't necessarily think he's elite as far as with flexibility. I do think he is definitely above average, and I think he's only going to have room to grow. So I gave him a total score of 17 and a 3.4 overall.
And we'll move on to another prospect. This time moving to a non-traditional state in terms of Washington pipeline, and this is going into
Alabama.
Kalen's new neck of the woods, and that's Caleb Smith, a defensive lineman, 6'4.5", 265 pounds, 0.86783 3-star from Birmingham, Alabama. I'll go quickly. From the tape, certainly a nice hand punch. Can play a little bit high, so that's certainly something to look at in terms of the senior tape, and as he continues to develop as part of the Washington program. Good pursuit, but at 6'4.5" and 265 pounds, this is an easily projectable frame for a rundown edge, and potential to, on pass downs, kick inside a little bit. So for frame, for me, that was a 3. Physicality, a 3. Flair, a 3. Football IQ and instincts, I actually did give him a 4, and then the feet and flexibility, a 3, to get to an overall of 16 and a 3.2. This is certainly somebody that could project to be a starter, and particularly we've talked about it a number of times in the multiplicity of the Belichick defense and having pieces that you can kind of move around based on situation. Definitely can see the projectability for Caleb.
Yeah, this is definitely a body type prospect in my opinion. We haven't. It's kind of funny. We haven't had a body like that in a long time. Coming from high school. We've got those types of guys in the portal or things like that, but we haven't got this type of guy out of high school. So I really appreciate prioritizing this frame. In regards to elements of the actual on-field play, I do feel like marrying his frame to the actual fundamentals of the game, I think is going to be the huge priority for the staff. Because the want to is there. If you also look at the offensive lineman he's going up against, there's some pretty big boys and things like that. So you can see the competition. While they may not be great, I don't know the competition in Alabama. While they may not be, they didn't seem to be super great. They definitely were big and challenging them and things like that. So
this is these aren't Kinko offensive lines that he's facing.
Yeah, definitely not. So whether they can stay feet or not, they were big and lengthy for the most part. So 6'4", 265, gave frame a 3. That's a great frame to come in if you're going to be a rundown edge or a 3-tech or something like that. Physicality, I gave a 2. That's like just natural traits and things like that. I did feel like I feel like that is his advantage for sure. But I do feel like I want to see the explosion out of the body type. I see it there, but I want to see it. I see it in his physical ability. But Flair, he's a get the job done kind of kid. Definitely a get the job done kind of kid. You can see kind of the workman-like approach to the game for sure. Gave it a 2 to football instincts as well. Like I said, a developmental prospect. It does feel like he's still kind of learning the game and things like that. You can tell he may even be practicing. Well, a lot of people do this, obviously, but it seems like at times in games he was practicing, some things he had just, learned or, things like that. So, and feet and flexibility, I did see him bend a couple edges. And I think a couple reps where I did see him bend some edges, it did, like I said, it looked like he was applying things that he was just learning. So really, really cool to see him applying that, swiftly. So I gave that a 3. Totaling of 12 and a 2.4 total overall rating.
Yeah, for me, I definitely look at him as a developmental prospect with a high ceiling. I know he's coming in as particularly to, want to be an edge, but I definitely see him moving inside. I think that's where he's going to maximize his ability. At 6'4", 265, I gave his frame a 4. Like Hood said, I mean, we rarely recruit guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that are going to come in with that prototype type of size to kind of build on and mold. And that's definitely an elite size for any freshman or human being still in high school. So I gave him a 4 there. Physicality, flair, and football instincts, I all gave a 2. I think he relies a lot on his size to get by. There's not a lot of, post snap moves. There's not a lot of counters to his game. It's kind of, it kind of plays in a straight line, like whether he's using this, a bull rush or kind of just using the hands or a quick chop, but there's nothing really secondary to that. So I think that's where he has the most room to grow. Feet and flexibility, like Hood said, you do see him bending some edges. So I can see definitely where the staff sees him, potentially playing some edge. But in this defense, being versatile, I can kind of see him moving along the defensive line. I gave him a total score of 13 and a total composite rate of 2.6.
And back into our traditional Happy Hunting Grounds in Happy Valley, not Happy Valley in Pennsylvania, but Happy Valley in Oregon. That's a defensive lineman, definitely, I think, more of a defensive tackle. 6'3", 300, 3-star. Dominic McCone. Would like to go first on that.
Another body type that, for one, is tough to find on the West Coast with any type of actual, football acumen. At listed 6'3", 305. That is a rare body type on the West Coast. So I gave that frame a 4, taking geography into account as well. Physicality, I gave a 3, and I prioritized his length. I gave him the benefit of the doubt there because of his length. I didn't feel like he necessarily used his length a lot, but I definitely saw that I saw the long legs, saw the long arms. So physicality gave that advantage there. Definitely demonstrative when he makes tackles for loss. Gets up, few big boy celebration type vibes. Football instincts and IQ. I gave a 2. Albeit, while I do feel like that's definitely something I can toggle up to 3. I saw him just being big and strong. I didn't really see him, kind of implementing any elements of his football IQ or instincts. And then the feet and footwork. I will say that this is another one where I could easily bump up to a 3. But what made me do a 2 was there were a couple of times where I felt like he got into the backfield and his feet stopped. And you make the play, but at this next level, you're gonna have to run your feet, or you're gonna get left. So I gave that a 2. Total score of 14 for a 2.8.
Yeah, with coming in 6'3", 305. I mean, there's NFL defensive tackles out of that size. So this frame definitely a 4, especially with another year of high school to go. I can only imagine what he's going to grow into. But what I had next to him was just anchor. I could definitely see him being an anchor of a defensive line, just that guy inside who's kind of versatile, but it's not going to be easy to move. So his physicality had as a 2, only because although he has that size, bumped that to a 3, added as a 2. I think he has a lot of room to grow, even though with that size, you would think, he'd be a dominant player. I think while he can become a dominant player this year, his hand punch, which is, I think, his greatest strength right now, I think he can utilize a counter to that and become more disruptive, as what Hood was saying, especially when it comes to making plays in the backfield and just kind of knowing how to bend down, use your lateral agility to kind of, be a game wrecker throughout the course of the season. So football IQ and instincts and feet flexibility I both had as a 2. I gave him a total score of 14 and total average of 2.8.
Yep, I'm pretty close there. I think he's got, I agree with you on where I had a football IQ and instincts too, because I agree with you about that hesitation once he gets into the backfield. For somebody 6'3", 305, he's got a nice get off.
He's got a solid get off, yeah.
He's got a solid get off.
Solid leverage. he throws his shoulder pad into people's chest a little too much.
It's just
Like
defending.
if he pops up,
Counter.
boom,
Yeah.
and like in shocks and
Yep.
sheds, he kind of like jumps into a chest and then kind of rips. But
The initial
anyway,
idea
sorry.
is there, but
Yeah, no,
counter to that while you know what I mean, like setting up your moves, I think kind of be his biggest room for growth.
yeah,
He's just
Yep.
I'm big.
yep. Get out my way.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the pad level is decent. I don't see him
agreed.
like with that get off and then like popping straight up.
Agreed.
But again, you know, the nuance, you know, is definitely an area of improvement. I definitely think he knows how to use his strength. So overall, I had him, you know, as a frame for, again, 6'3", 305. You know, when we talk about some of the edges, you know, in Caleb and Devin a little bit as guys that are going to be edges that may kick inside occasionally. He's more of somebody that's going to be inside, and then may still be on the field as a pass rushing defensive tackle, but could be that anchor, could be that nose, could be the Greg Gaines. Maybe not, you know, maybe not the same, but like, you know, kind of a Greg Gaines type anchor or kind of alternate anchor when not playing next to somebody named Villa.
Cheat codes.
Yeah, serious cheat codes. We were spoiled as Husky fans. So frame 4, physicality 3, flair 3, football IQ instincts 2, feet and flexibility 3. Again, with that get off. So a 15 and an overall average rating of 3 for Dominic. And then we can move on to the last true defensive player in the class, and we'll save specialists for another time because we just got another commitment from one, I believe, literally today. But we'll talk about Victor Sanchez Hernandez, who is from bear with me as I flip
Arlington High School.
Old school. Yep. Kamiak High School.
Oh, yeah, Kamiak.
He's up in Kamiak, so that's up in Mukilteo. Everett, 6'5", 230. He's a .84 composite, 3-star. Actually, frame, strength, projectability, and I definitely think of, you know, from what I saw on the tape, there's a pretty distinct likelihood that he may kick inside more often than not. So for me, that's a frame 4, a physicality. He's a physicality 3, flair 2, football IQ instincts 3, feet and flexibility 2. Nothing just absolutely jumps off the tape. You know, certainly you see a lot more speed and pursuit from Devin Hyde. And there, you know, there's some separation, no pun intended, in terms of the speed and athleticism that's demonstrated in the tape. But again, you know, a lot of this defensive class, it's, you know, it's projectable athletes that we like. But this, I wouldn't say that Victor Sanchez Hernandez is a guy that's going to be relied on to play more than, you know, the 4 games in his true freshman season in redshirt, and probably is not going to see. I wouldn't expect him to, you know, be a significant contributor until probably at least his redshirt sophomore or redshirt junior seasons or true junior seasons. So overall for me, a 14 and a 2.8, but certainly no issues at all with the take, and definitely see what the coaching staff sees in him. And again, with the multiplicity of the defense, how they could potentially utilize a player like Victor Sanchez Hernandez.
For me, you guys, this is a sneaky one. Because I feel like he's a young man growing into his body a little bit. I do think last year, I think the football player wasn't there so much, but the athlete was. And if you watch a lot of his work in the off season, he became the football player. So I did watch some of the underwear Olympics. I did watch a lot of his training kind of videos in the off season, and I do see a lot of moves that weren't even remotely on his film. A lot of athleticism that wasn't even remotely on his film, and then to also find out that he does kickboxing and does it at a pretty decent level. Allowed me a lot of insight into his athletic profile. So this is a real sneaky one that could probably manipulate the scoring system based on just his abilities. But like you said, he probably wouldn't be called on 2 to 3 years in campus. So frame 6'5", 230, I got that a 4. Physicality, I got that as a 3. You do kickboxing, and I saw a couple track workouts. He has a pretty solid, stride. Um, Flair, I gave that a 1. I wouldn't say there's like significant football confidence yet. He's still kind of growing into his football identity. So gave that a 1. Football instincts and IQ, I gave that a 2. Um, and then feet and flexibility, like I said, you are a mixed martial arts athlete. You know what I'm saying? And if you guys go on his page, you'll see some of his work, and he's no slouch. So he's actually high level when it comes to kickboxing. So you'll see him do a couple moves. I will say that like you'll see like a couple aerials and stuff where you'll be able to see his flexibility and his explosion as well for his size. So I think he's somebody that kind of low key manipulates the scoring system based on what's been proven and what like his athletic profile is. But score a 13 and a 2.6.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, Hood. You look at him on tape; he's definitely fluid for his side, but you can tell he's still a project as far as where he's going to project. He definitely doesn't seem like he really knows how to use his size yet. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's 6'5", 230, he doesn't always play to that. I think that's his next step and his room to grow. But I definitely see the ceiling, and I definitely see what they see in him. He's a guy who easily sheds blocks. Definitely is more looking to arm tackle more than hit you in the mouth at this point in his development, which I think he could take another step in his physicality. Which leads me to my scores here for the young man. Frame, I gave a 4. I mean, you can't teach 6'5", 230 whether you know how to properly utilize that size at this point in your young high school career or not. I think that's prototypical size, especially trying to take the next step in your football journey. Physicality has a 3, although he's not gonna typically knock you back. On film, he definitely, when he does wrap his arms around you, you do go down. And he does seem like a sure tackler. Flair gave a 2. Doesn't seem like he's, overly enthusiastic or super high up, on the field as far as when he makes a play, but he just kind of is a business as usual approach, which I can appreciate. Mm-hmm. So you have that balance throughout your defensive prospects. Football IQ and instincts have as a 2. Right now, he plays a little too high for me. And you can tell if he's playing against an elite offensive lineman, he can get knocked back pretty easily, only because I still think he's developing, but I definitely see room for growth there. And then feet and flexibility, I give a 3. Although what he lacks in physicality and, the natural IQ of the position, he definitely makes that with his athletic ability and being able to actually get bendy and if he needs to, and shed blocks. And he's kind of like Gumby right now when you watch him on film, where he's hard to put hands on. And so he makes a lot of plays that way, whether it's on special teams or on defense. So I gave him a 3 there, gave him a total score of 14 and a 2.8 overall score.
Yeah. A lot of agreement here tonight. Kind of unsurprising. Given our conversations and certainly having sat with you gentlemen at football games, we tend to look at things similarly. But I'm glad I'm not I'm glad I'm not out in left field because you gentlemen definitely have more firsthand expertise than I do. But any final thoughts before we wrap things up tonight? But we'll certainly, like I said, we'll revisit the full class probably in 2-part episodes upon signing days, unless you guys all want to sit through a 4-hour pod, both us as contributors and the audience.
I mean, whether you,
that would be
depending on what class.
When is the podcast over territory? not only the
I
season.
I can do a live show for 4 hours. Shoot.
I mean, either way you slice it right now, it's a top 19 class in the country with. Definitely
with a couple additions recently too.
We'll see at least 6 or 7 more guys committed before it's all said and done. We got some big name prospects out there that we're hoping to get in the boat. I think everyone kind of knows who those guys are. So hopefully they can add to the class and just really add to the versatility that Jed's putting together. It's definitely, although it may not be the, best overall class Washington has brought in. I mean, when you look at the potential of this class, I think it's definitely up there. When you look at the body types and the skill level of the guys they're bringing in, you can definitely see the vision in the clay they're hoping to mold moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, and you're still within pretty decent range of like some of the best class that Chris Peterson signed, and this is. I've mentioned it
he's
in a
probably
couple of
gonna
different
beat it. He's probably gonna beat it.
Results
And you got to think this is matching the best Chris Peterson's classes, not the first year Chris was there. You know what I mean? Not the first year Sark was there. You know, not the first year DeBoer was there. So somebody coming in and, you know, being able to do this just kind of shows you can do both sides of it. You know, and that's once again where we speak to, you know, you got an upgrade and a coach. You know, I'm trying to explain that, but you got an upgrade in the coach. You maintain a lot of the standards, bringing in a lot of the pro coaches here. So, you know, you can analyze, you know, stars all you want to, but you know, the acumen, the coaching acumen of the staff plays a huge part in the guys that you're getting. You know what I mean? So, like a guy like Caleb Smith, where we said, and Hernandez, where we said, oh, we don't necessarily see it here yet. We don't necessarily see it. You get a frame where we're talking about you're a 3 or a 4. You get them in, you know what I mean? You get them in the system, and it's like, oh shoot, this is what did Bob Sapp say? You teach me to play football?
I love little Marco.
We teach a couple of these big boys how to play football, and we're all gravy.
For the record, Kalen DeBoer's best class at Washington was 29th.
I'll see.
During his granted that was a 31 commit class. So yeah,
there's levels.
The staff is doing some business. Let's see. I think it was Peterson's class. The final class would have been 2019. I'm popping over to 24/7 right now, and that was
probably top 15, 16, 13, 15, 15th.
Had an average rating of a 90.36. We're currently sitting at an 88 and change.
And I think I saw a 24/7 post that they have UW as the 13th best class, and the composite's like 19 or 18 or something like that. So they have us, you know. So 247, has our players ranked higher.
You add somebody like an Andrew Marsh or a Ladarian Clarity to this class.
Come on, man, stop! Don't do this to me right now.
Or we're not out of flip season yet.
We ain't, and that goes, to be honest, that goes both ways. Which a lot of people playing NCAA find out, you get somebody flip from you, and then there's a random prospect that you got in the back burner that want to flip to you, and so it's a flowing process. So it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a lot of these little episodes to kind of update our fans on and stuff like that.
Yep.
Fall
and
it's gonna be 19
class, it's gonna be interesting to see what.
No, that 2019 class.
Elite.
I mean, you're talking what 4 first-round picks?
There's an element. There's an element of it where but it's a priority of development as well. So you have that top class, but they all stayed 4 or 5 years. So like, it's a conversation.
We'll run through some of the notable names in that 2019 class. One that didn't stay. Highest ranked recruit in that class was Puka Nacua. Trent McDuffie, best cornerback in the NFL. It will never not hurt my heart that Leatu Latu didn't get cleared to stay at Washington. Can you imagine what the national championship game would have looked like with Leatu Latu on our team?
Don't even get me started, bro. It's crazy, bro.
Or
I'm a pop, come on, bro.
Troy Faetanu was in that class. Cam Fab.
Alfonso Tuputal. No, he came after.
Yeah, Sama Palmer, Mickey Ayu, Noah Nagalu, Taj Davis,
Mickey Ayu,
Braylon Trice.
Braylon
Trice was the 3-star.
Cam Davis, Nate Caleppo, Taj Davis, Braylon,
crazy work, bro.
Corey.
They flex that class as being like brotherhood, the big brotherhood. So that's really cool.
The 20 class wasn't bad either. That was J Mac, Roger, Rome. Miles Morale, Garion, Jacoby Covington. He probably wishes he hadn't flipped to USC.
He rotates now, respectfully.
Yeah. So anyway, everybody, thanks for listening. Go Dogs. We will be back soon, whether it's next week or the week following. Prognostications will be back. We will work to get our good friend DP back on. for him to full Doog. We'll do some other season previews, and we're about 3 weeks from a game week pod, gentlemen.
Craziness.
Yes, sir. We got a scrimmage coming up too, so we'll see y'all there if y'all pulling up, if you can.
Thanks for listening. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Go Dogs. Big dubs.